this is Satviya and Klex tutor from Big Apple Academy. So today we are covering very important test for fetal surveillance, non-stress test and contraction stress test. So let's start with non-stress test. In non-stress test, we observe fetal heart accelerations when fetal moves in intrauterine cavity. Okay, so without imposing any stress on the baby or on the mother, no stress on the mother or on the fetus when we are observing fetal heart accelerations when fetal moves in uterine cavity. How we do this test? So when mothers come in, so we put the mother on the external fetal monitor, okay, and we observe whether fetal heart rate increases, when fetal moves in intrauterine cavity. So how we interpret your non-stress test? So when we say fetal non-stress test is reactive, so when we say whenever we observe at least two fetal heart acceleration in 20-minute period, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ 20 ਮਿੰਟ ਪੀਰੀਅਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ minimum two fetal heart accelerations observe ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, then we say our test is reactive. So reactive test is a green flag, that means a good sign. If we observe two fetal heart acceleration in 20 minutes, that means your fetus is getting adequate amount of oxygen and intact nervous system. Okay, so how much accelerations we observe? Minimum 15 beats per minute above the baseline, and it should stay at least for 15 seconds. For example, fetal baseline is 120 beats per minute, and when fetus moves in intrauterine cavity, so fetal heart rate should increase to 135. Okay, so ਕਿੰਨੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ? Minimum 135 ਤੱਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, so minimum 135 beats per minute ਤੱਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ heart rate increase ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ, and it should stay 135 beats per minute for at least 15 seconds. It can stay more longer. For example, it can stay 16 seconds, 17, 18, 19, 20, but minimum 15 seconds. Okay, so it should stay above the baseline 15 beats per minute, minimum 15, but above can be 135, 136, 140, 145, but minimum should increase to 135 beats per minute, 15 beats per minute from the baseline. Okay, and it should stay for at least 15 seconds. Then we say this is a good accelerations. Okay, so these are good accelerations. If mother is less than 32 week gestation, अगर mother less than 32 week gestation ਆ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬੱਚੇ ਦਾ parasympathetic nervous system develop ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ 10 beats per minute above the baseline for at least 10 seconds, we consider it as a reactive test. Okay, so if mother gestation age is less than 32 week, then we consider if fetal heart rate increases by 10 beats per minute above the baseline and it stay for at least 10 seconds, then we consider the test is reactive. When that means fetus is getting adequate amount of oxygen. Okay, so when we say test is non-reactive, when we observe no accelerations in 40-minute period. For example, we observe the fetus for first 20 minutes and there are no accelerations, then we further observe for next 20 minutes, and if in 40-minute period, if there are no accelerations, in next 40 minutes, that means test is non-reactive. If non-reactive, non-stress is not good, you need to remember 3 N's. Non-reactive, non-stress test is not good, so that means your fetus is having hypoxia or fetus is going through fetal distress. Okay, so non-reactive fetal stress is not good. So what are the basic advantage of non-stress test? This is non-invasive. We are not imposing any stress to the mother, no stress to the fetus, and it is painless. Okay, but disadvantage is that sometimes we get the false positive results. मतलब false non-reactive results. Sometimes we get how? Sometimes fetus ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ, fetus is in deep sleep, doesn't move. Okay, so whenever your fetus is in deep sleep, doesn't move, then fetal heart rate doesn't increase. ਸੋ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਆਬਜ਼ਰਵ ਮਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਆਬਜ਼ਰਵ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਫੀਟਸ ਸੁੱਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਫੀਟਲ ਹਾਰਟ ਰੇਟ ਇਨਕਰੀਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾਨ ਰਿਐਕਟਿਵ ਟੈਸਟ ਆ ਸੋ ਦੈਨ ਵਟ ਵੀ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਡੂ ਸੋ ਫਸਟ ਵੀ tell the mother walk around, have something to eat, any orange juice, sandwich or anything. Okay, so mother ਨੂੰ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਐਕਟਿਵ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਨੇ ਆ. So second thing, we can also do vibroacoustic stimulation. So we give vibrations, a sound vibration. Okay, ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ 3 ਸੈਕਿੰਡ ਲਈ ਮਿਨੀਮਮ 3 ਸੈਕਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਮੈਕਸਿਮਮ 3 ਟਾਈਮਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਆ 3 ਟਾਈਮਸ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਆ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਓਕੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਫॉर ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਇੱਕ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ 10:01 ਦੇ ਦਿੰਨੇ ਆ 10:02 ਤੇ ਦੇਤੀ 10:03 ਮੈਕਸਿਮਮ 3 ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ 1 ਮਿੰਟ ਅਪਾਰਟ ਮੈਕਸਿਮਮ ਈਚ ਟਾਈਮ ਅਸੀਂ 3 ਸੈਕਿੰਡ ਲਈ ਮੈਕਸਿਮਮ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਿੰਨੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਜਸਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੇ ਬੱਚਾ ਡੀਪ ਸਲੀਪ ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਗਾ ਦਿੰਨੇ ਆ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਸੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਾਈਬਰੋਕਾਸਟਿਕ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁੰਨੇ ਆ so just in case your fetus is in deep sleep and we are doing non-stress test and there are no accelerations so then we can do this okay so in case we do mother ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ walk around ਕਹਿਤਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਖਾਣ ਪੀਣ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿਤਾ even after that even after vibrocaustic stimulation if non-stress is non-reactive that is not good so then test is non-reactive so then we do contraction stress test we do CST so in CST we observe fetal heart rate in response to contractions so when we induce contractions, then we assess fetal heart rate. Sometime ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ fetus ਆ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਆ ਤਾਂ देयर इज अ यूट्रोप्लेसेंटल insufficiency for brief period of time ਤਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਉਹਨੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਪੀਰੀਅਡ ਨੂੰ ਟੋਲਰੇਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ then fetal probably have some late decelerations okay so we observe in CST we just observe fetal heart rate in response to contractions ਕਿ ਬੱਚਾ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਟੋਲਰੇਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਲੇਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਟੋਲਰੇਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਸੋ ਵੀ observe that so contraction stress test CST is contraindicated in some cases so in which we are not allowed to induce any contractions for example preterm labor premature rupture of membrane placenta previa or your mother is having a history of classic cesarean section or any extensive uterine surgery so CST is contraindicated in these cases okay so so whenever you're doing CST so observe all these scenarios and then we can do if this is not the case then we can do contraction stress tests so then we can do CST so the way to induce contractions how we induce the contractions first is nipple stimulation so we ask the mother to do nipple stimulation. As you know, with the nipple stimulation, oxytocin release increases and oxytocin helps to induce the contractions. Okay. So one is this method. The second is oxytocin. So in case this doesn't work, then we do oxytocin. So we give oxytocin and we start at lowest rate 0.5 to 1 milliunit per minute and we will increase every 15 to 20 minutes the rate of oxytocin we can increase in every 15 to 20 minutes until we get the desired contractions okay so how we interpret the CST so like if your CST is negative that means no deceleration means test is negative when there are no late deceleration your test is negative and negative CST is a good sign okay so it's a good sign it's a happy sign okay so it's a happy sign that means your fetus is tolerating the contractions and getting adequate amount of circulation okay adequate amount of oxygen so whenever CST is negative that means there are no decelerations that is a good sign that is a smiley baby so if your fetus is if CST is positive so positive is red flag okay so positive is red flag means your fetus is experiencing late deceleration for more than 50% of the contractions for example ਤੁਸੀਂ 10 ਮਿੰਟ ਚੈੱਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੋ 10 ਮਿੰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫॉर ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ your mother is having 4 contractions for more than ਤੁਹਾਡੀਆਂ more than 2 ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਆ ਲੇਟ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ, ਫॉर एग्जांपल okay, so in 4 contractions your fetus is having minimum or 3 decelerations, so that means your test is positive. ਜਦੋਂ 50% 50% of the contractions or more than 50% or more than 50% contraction ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਲੇਟ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਉਣ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਚ ਵੀ ਲੇਟ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ, ਦੂਜੀ ਚ ਵੀ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਆ ਗਈਆਂ ਹਨਾ, ਸੋ ਤੀਸਰੀ ਚ ਵੀ ਆ ਗਈਆਂ, ਚੌਥੀ ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਈਆਂ, ਸੋ this test is positive, and positive CST is not good, so that means your baby is in stress. Okay, so that means your baby is in stress. If you're positive, if CST is positive, that means ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ late decelerations ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ for more than 50% of contractions. Okay, so when we call equivocal, whenever for example ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਦਰ ਨੂੰ 4 ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਈਆਂ, 4 ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੇਟ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਈਆਂ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਸੋ 4 ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ 10 ਮਿੰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਚ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਹੀ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਸੀਗੀ, ਲੇਟ ਡੈਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਸੀ, ਸੋ ਵੀ ਕੰਸੀਡਰ ਇਟ ਇਕੁਇਵੋਕਲ। ਮੇ ਬੀ ਬੱਚਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਉਸ ਲੇਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਟੋਲਰੇਟ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ, ਬਟ ਓਕੇਜਨਲੀ ਕੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ 'ਚ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਸੋ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕੁਇਵੋਕਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੰਗਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਮਾੜਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਬਟ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਕੌਨਸਟੈਂਟ ਮੋਨੀਟਰਿੰਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ। ਅਨਸੈਟਿਸਫੈਕਟਰੀ ਕਦੋਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ, ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ 10 ਮਿੰਟ ਪੀਰੀਅਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੈਸ ਦੈਨ 3 ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ, ਆਈਦਰ ਨਿਪਲ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਦਰ ਦੀ ਨੂੰ ਯੂਟਰਾਈਨ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੰਡਿਊਸ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ, ਔਰ ਆਕਸੀਟੋਸਿਨ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋ ਡੋਜ਼ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਇੰਡਿਊਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ, so that is unsatisfactory, so we have to observe further. Okay, so what is the so these are the interpretation for CST. So what are the basic advantage of the test? Advantage ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ CST ਦੀ, so it gives 99% reassurance ਕਿ your baby will get adequate amount of oxygen for next 1 week, so there will be sufficient uteroplacental circulation for next 1 week, ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ CST ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਸੋ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਆ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜੀ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਐਡਵਾਂਟੇਜ ਆ, ਬਟ ਦ ਡਿਸਐਡਵਾਂਟੇਜ ਮੇ ਬੀ ਡਿਊ ਟੂ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ, ਸੋ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਇੰਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸੋ ਸਮ ਟਾਈਮ ਮਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ, ਅਸੀਂ ਹਾਈਪਰ ਸਟਿਮੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਯੂਟਰਾਈਨ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਕਾਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸੋ ਦੈਟ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਮੇਜਰ disadvantage of this test, and it takes more time than non-stress test and little expensive than this test, because sometimes we need IV insertion and we have to give oxytocin to the mother, so little expensive, and but it is a minimum invasive, so we just need to give an IV, so minimum invasive, that is a good sign, but little bit it take a longer time to assess, and it is little expensive than non-stress test. So this is all about your contraction stress test. So let's recap. So in non-stress test, we are not imposing any stress and we are observing fetal heart rate in response to fetal movement. So remember, your fetus is running in uterine cavity. When fetal runs, fetal heart rate should increase. Okay, so in contraction stress test, so we induce contractions, so we induce some stress on the fetus, and then we observe fetal heart rate in response to contractions. So whenever your fetus is under some stress, so that means your fetal heart rate, so then we observe fetal heart rate. So how fetal responds to in stress, so in NST, if your stress is reactive, NST if reactive, that means your fetal is having two fetal heart accelerations for at least 20-minute period, at least 15 beats per minute above the baseline for at least 15 seconds. If CST is negative, no deceleration, your baby is happy. So in NST, if test is reactive, your baby is happy. So that means your baby is getting adequate amount of oxygen and is having a intact nervous system. Non-reactive. So non-reactive, non-stress test is not good because there are no accelerations. So whenever you have multiple N's, that is not good. Multiple N's are not good. Non-reactive, non-stress test no acceleration is not good. Okay, so then we need further monitoring.
So
But
that
if CST is positive, that means your fetus is under some stress. You have to do something to save the fetus. Okay, so late decelerations, if there are more than 50% of contraction, in more than 50% of contractions, if your fetus is having late deceleration, your baby is under some stress, you have to do something, okay, to save the baby. So this is all about your today's topic, NST and CST.
So thank you. If you have any concern, you can text me in comment box. I will get back to you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.